Game emulation is a hotly debated topic within the gaming community. For some, it offers a lifeline to reel up beloved classics that have become inaccessible over the years, preserving gaming history and providing experiences that would otherwise be lost. For others, they represent an illegal shortcut, allowing people to play games without supporting the hard-working developers and publishers. And on pretty much every video I put out, there's always people in the comments saying, here's why I emulate, why don't you emulate? Don't waste your money on physical games, blah blah blah. And I haven't really experienced emulation in the past, so I wanted to address the reasons why I personally don't emulate. Now again, like the previous video where I discussed why I play retro games on a CRT TV, this is just my personal preference of why I don't emulate games and prefer playing physical games on the original hardware where possible. This is not me demonizing emulation or gatekeeping, telling people how to enjoy and experience this hobby that we love called game collecting. This is just my personal preference of why I don't emulate, and hopefully we can have a healthy conversation in the comments down below. But the first big reason I personally don't emulate, look around this room, I clearly enjoy collecting, curating and owning physical games. I've been collecting games now for around 10 years and I still love the hobby of game collecting. I massively value having true ownership of my games, being able to look at them on the shelves, picking up a game, looking through the manual. The visual aspect of building and having a games library is a big appeal to me. I love the tactile feel of having something tangible in my hands. It's a reason why I still prefer physical books over reading on a Kindle. Like emulation, using a Kindle to read is way more convenient. You have an entire library in the palm of your hands, but it doesn't feel as real or as satisfying as turning real pages, feeling the paper, smelling the crispiness of a fresh book. It's the exact same reason why I love owning and collecting physical games. It's just that real tangible thing in your hands. The game case, the manual, the disc, putting the disc in the console, hearing the humming of the disc drive. It just sounds and feels so real and more alive and just makes this hobby way more enjoyable for me personally. Unless we get to a point with VR or the future where we can replicate these sensations, I'll never get these experiences with a ROM. And this copy of Skies of Arcadia is mine. No one can come here and take it away from me. Unless the game dies due to disc rot, which I haven't really personally experienced. I keep my games in nice condition in a dry place, so shouldn't be a big issue. Unless that happens, these games are mine forever. No one can take them away from me, and I don't need to rely on dodgy Dave providing ROMs on a game emulator website. I've got the physical disc in my house, in my game collection. I can play them whenever I feel like it. I always see people commenting saying, oh, in 20 years time, those discs are going to be useless, they're going to die of disc rot, but unless you keep your games in some murky, wet environment, I don't see disc rot being a problem. I haven't personally experienced it, so take that for what you will. And for me, having games physically, being able to look at them on the shelves, it takes me back to the time where I picked them up. It takes me back to a time when I was playing those games back in the past. These games are like time capsules. They allow me to go back in time and re-experience all the memories and everything encapsulated, embodied in the physical games. And we're all massive nostalgia junkies. We all love going back in time, and you can never replicate that with a ROM in a big folder on an SD card or hard drive. Just looking at these games, when I walk into this room and I see this library, it just takes me back on a massive, massive nostalgia trip, man. I don't have any tattoos, but I imagine a big reason why people love having tattoos is having something that physically embodies someone, a memory, something. And in a similar way, physical games are that for me. When I look back at my copy of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I remember playing this during my A-levels and failing my A-levels at college, and that whole experience just comes flooding back when I see that statue of Geralt on my shelf. Or when I look at my copy of Skyrim on the PlayStation 3, it takes me back to playing it at my partner's house, sitting in a garden chair for so long that it permanently indented the carpet. You can't get that same feeling playing through ROMs on a folder on some hard drive. You just can't, right? And if you just enjoy playing games, then I guess emulating gives you that route. But for people that love going down that nostalgia trip, for people that love collecting games to almost go back in time to a more simpler time, you can only recapture the magic, recapture those moments that you've lost or you thought you lost through physical games. And it's just a special, special thing, man. And for me, every physical game on my shelf has a story to be told. Maybe how I wheeled and deal my way to buying a rare game, or what point I was at in my life, or even what was going on around me in the world. It just transports me back to that time, even if just for a second. And on that point about physical game collecting, playing them, owning them, feeling more alive and more real, It just adds to the overall experience that I'm looking for when it comes to game collecting and playing through my game library. Something I've been doing recently with my retro games is that I've actually been reading through the manual like you would back in the day on the ride home. I'll page through it, learn the backstory of the characters, understand the game mechanics. Again, I'm looking for that whole experience that emulation doesn't provide. I'm not here to just play the games. For me, this hobby of game collecting is a lot more than just playing the games. I want to experience the games. I want to learn about the games, the backstory, the developer stories. Something I've been doing recently while I've been working, I've actually been listening to the soundtrack of Skies of Arcadia just to get me pumped for when I'm ready to play it during my Christmas break. You saw me on my recent video pick it up from the CEX in Stoke, and I get myself in that right frame of mind when it does come time to play it during my Christmas break. The soundtrack, reading about it online, watching retrospectives, learning about the backstory, how the game was created. For me, it just adds to this overall experience that I'm looking for when it comes to game collecting and this hobby we all love and enjoy. And again, this whole experience of grabbing a game off the shelf, reading the back of the case, reading the manual, popping the disc into the console, even the disc roll away in the console, it feels so much more real and adds to the overall experience. This is something you can't replicate with ROMs or emulation. Now look, if you don't care about any of this what I'm saying, or you're just here to play the games, which is definitely an important part of the hobby, if you're just here to play the games, you don't really care about the experience, then I guess it doesn't really matter about that. But for me, this is what I look for, and it's a big reason why I still play my retro games on a big 28-inch CRT TV. I love playing games in the way they were meant to be played, on the original hardware, on the original TV they were developed for, and if possible, on the original connectors connected from the console to the TV. I love playing games as close as possible to the way the developers wanted them to be played. Like I said, it takes me back in time to the 90s when I was a kid, playing these games on a CRT on the floor like that up to the TV. Like I said, a large part of this hobby is going back in time to a simpler time where we didn't have bills, mortgages, work, jobs. It was just you, a controller, and your games, man. It was so good. Again, in my previous video, I use this word a lot, but I want that true, authentic, genuine experience when it comes to playing games. That's why I play on a CRT, and that's why I don't look for emulation when it comes to playing through my library. Playing these games physically on the original hardware, I'm getting that true, authentic experience. I'm not playing these on some handheld device with an OLED screen. I'm not modding these games to have better loading times or better textures. I'm playing them in their original format, and that's really important to me. I don't collect vinyl records or comic books, but I imagine a large part of why people do collect those kind of things is for the overall experience. Having something in your hands, having that crispy comic that you can turn, being careful with the pages, or having a record. I don't know if records sound better than Spotify music, but that whole experience of getting the vinyl, putting it in the vinyl player, putting the needle on the vinyl, hearing it whirl away in the vinyl player, it just adds to the overall experience. You're being intentional with what you listen to, you're doing an act, you're doing something to do that experience. Does it sound better than Spotify? Maybe, I don't know. But again, it's something you can look at the shelves, it's something you have to do, it takes you back in time, it's real, it's alive, it's not some digital file that you've got stashed away on an SD card. It's a physical object that you've got a connection to, an embodiment of memories, and a gateway to a time of yesterday. I want to go back to the point about having this whole experience be more intentional and being more deliberate with what you play. A big issue with game collecting is choice paralysis. Having too many games to play, then almost feeling like you've got nothing to play. When you come into your room, peruse your shelves, you've got so many games at your fingertips, but nothing really takes your fancy. This can 100% happen when you're a physical game collector. Having too many games to play, but nothing really taking your fancy. I've got around 400 games in my collection, but I haven't really experienced this choice paralysis. I think choice paralysis happens more often when you collect things digitally versus physically. And when I first got into PC gaming in 2013, after I spent my £30 Steam credit on 10 games from the winter sale, I wanted more, so I jumped on the Pirate Bay and I downloaded a bunch of games, just random games that I would never buy or games I had no interest in. You know what happened when I was a scummy pirate back in the day? I bounced from game to game to game. I never stuck with anything back in my PC gaming days. There was no reason to, I had no buy-in. I had no attachment to the games, it was just digital files on my hard drive that I just downloaded from Pirate Bay. I'd play a game for an hour here, half an hour there, nothing stuck because I wasn't intentional. Why bother investing time in going through the tutorial or something, or learning the backstory of characters within a game that didn't initially grab me when I had another 30 games at my fingertips? Again, this can definitely happen when you've got a large physical games collection, but I don't really go through the same experience I did back in my PC gaming days. When I lock in for the night and I pick a game I'm going to play, I'm very intentional and I'm very deliberate, and it all goes back to that experience. And if I want to change what I'm playing, I need to get up from my chair, turn off the console, take the disc out of the console, put the disc back in this case, go to the shelf, pick up another game from the shelf, carefully open it, if it's a Dreamcast game, because those are very fragile, put the new game back in the console and turn it back on. I know this sounds so minor, but this overall act and this overall intentional experience is way more effort than clicking on a ROM, closing the ROM, going back to your emulator, picking a new ROM onto the next one. I'm way more intentional when it comes to playing my physical games through my physical library. And I also don't see myself bouncing off games as fast or as much when it comes to playing from my physical games. If I bought a game, I feel obliged to give it a fair shake. I definitely feel our attention spans over the last 5 years has massively dwindled, and we find ourselves bored way quicker and we never give anything a real chance. I've recently been playing through Blue Stinger on the Dreamcast and really been enjoying it, but those first few hours are rough, man. So the dialogue, the acting is horrendous, very 90s. The camera and the controls are janky, wonky, really hard to get used to. And I found myself getting lost and frustrated. It's an old school game, the map is pretty bad, and it took me a while to acclimatise myself to these retro 90s games. And if I would have emulated Blue Stinger, I don't see that I would have stuck out those first few hours. Like I said, really frustrating, but because I had £25 on the line, because I had an attachment to Blue Stinger, I'd gone out there, bought it with my hard-earned money. There was something just making me push through it, making me get through those initial first few hours. And like I said, I'm now really enjoying it. It's a great game. I highly recommend it. And when it comes to emulation, there's just no real buy-in, no attachment, no reason to push through those initial first few hours. Because you put little effort into getting the game, you just go onto some website, get the ROM, and there's nothing really holding you back and jumping into your over 100 or maybe thousands of other games that you've got on your emulator. Now look, I'm not one to play a game, push through a game if you're not enjoying it. If after 3-4 hours I wasn't feeling or vibing with Blue Stinger, I definitely would have dropped it and picked up something else from the shelf. But playing physical games, you're a lot more deliberate, you've got a lot more buy-in and push through those hard first few hours of a game when you're getting used to the controls, the story, the characters, the gameplay mechanics. And again, it just comes down to being more intentional and deliberate with what you play. And linked to that point about playing a game here, a game there, a game there, and just playing and bouncing between games, I never want to be a dabbler or someone who just, puts half an hour into a game there, 20 minutes there, 10 minutes there. I want to dedicate myself, like I said, to learning the backstory of a game, learning what pain the developers went through, listening to the soundtrack. I want to experience the whole game and everything that it encompasses. And a big thing that puts me off with emulation, I work in IT and I hate messing around with hardware and tinkering around with settings. I don't want to spend time downloading ROMs, setting up emulators, getting things set up, config files. I find it so overwhelming and mentally straining. And I know the market's been flooded with handhelds that come preloaded with ROMs. I know if I watch a few hours worth of YouTube videos, I could probably figure it out, but I just want that plug and play experience. I just want to grab a game off the shelf, put it into my console, turn on the TV and just be straight into my game. I don't want to be faffing around with settings, emulators, where to get my ROMs from. Is it going to work properly? Have I got the right hardware? I don't want any of that, man. And I'm not sure if I've got something weird going on in my brain, but I think I spend so much time and effort in sourcing the ROMs, setting up the emulators, configuring them to look the best, that when it actually came to play the game, I just wouldn't be bothered and the moment would pass me by. I'd spend so many hours modding Skyrim, looking at YouTube videos of the best mod support on Skyrim, making sure my Nexus mod manager was set up properly, how to get the best performance from these mods, that when it came around to playing Skyrim or Fallout 3, I just couldn't be bothered, man. I just couldn't be arsed, and the moment passed me by and I just lost all enthusiasm for playing that game. And I feel something similar would happen if I went down the emulation path. And I can already hear people in the comments saying it's so easy, literally do X, Y, Z, but like I keep saying, I just want that plug and play experience. I want to grab a game off my shelf, put it into the console and be off to the races. Old technology, like these old CRTs, the old consoles, they're all fairly reliable and they're pretty durable. It just works. No issues, no updates, no tinkering, just me, my controller and the game in the way it was meant to be played. So I've gone through the reasons why I personally don't emulate. Again, this is not me gatekeeping. This is not me telling you not to emulate. This is just my personal preference. But I want to go through some reasons why I would maybe emulate in the future. I'm not against it. I'm not opposed to emulation. It's never really been a thing that I've been looking to do. But One of the reasons why I would definitely emulate is to play games that we never got here in the PAL region in the UK. I want to play through games that I haven't had a chance to experience. And as you know, I'm a big JRPG fan. I love them. It's definitely my favourite genre. And in the UK, we didn't get a lot of the classics, a lot of the must-plays. Games like Xenogears on the PlayStation 1, Xenosaga Episodes 1 and 3 on the PlayStation 2. For some reason, we only got Episode 2, bizarrely. I also picked up a copy of Persona 2 on the PlayStation 1 back when we went to the amazing Forgotten Wilds in Scotland earlier this year. My copy of Persona 2 on the PlayStation 1 is NTSC. We never got it here in the UK on the PlayStation 1. I can't actually play it on my PAL PlayStation 2. The only way I can play that physically is through either a NTSC PlayStation 1 or NTSC PlayStation 2. And I don't even know if those work properly on a PAL UK SCART TV. And I know you can mod your consoles to be region free, but then I don't know if they run correctly due to the issues with PAL TVs. I don't know if they play with the correct frame rate. Again, it goes back to me not enjoying tinkering around with hardware. It is definitely doable, and from what I've seen, it's not too difficult, but again, I don't want to spend time messing around with hardware, buying things that might not work with my current setup. So maybe playing these games, these older games that never got released in the PAL region would be definitely a lot more easier and a lot better on an emulator. And it may also provide a lot more quality of life features. I think Persona 1 on the PlayStation 1, there's actually a version through emulation that's got the updates on the PSP version and just plays a lot better than the OG PlayStation 1 version. So maybe emulation would allow me to play these older JRPGs in a lot better format. And in a similar vein, emulation would allow me to play games for consoles I don't collect for. I collect mainly for PlayStation consoles. I recently picked up a Sega Dreamcast, which I'm absolutely loving. But there's definitely a lot of games on consoles I don't collect for at this current moment in time that I would definitely love to play. Definitely at the top of my list is Terranigma on the SNES, on the Super Nintendo. That game looks incredible, man. I would love to play that. Again, I've been listening to the soundtrack. It sounds so beautiful. So somber but so uplifting at the same time. I've also watched a deep retrospective about Terranigma, and man, I would love to own that game in my collection and play it on a Super Nintendo, but that game is so expensive. Looking on eBay, that game goes for around £300 to £400 for a nice complete in-box copy of the manual. Do I really want to go out my way, buy a Super Nintendo, buy a very expensive Terranigma copy? Maybe. Who knows what the future holds, but these really rare retro games like Terranigma, Lufia, other cool looking JRPGs on the Super Nintendo. Does it make sense buying original hardware and very expensive games just to play them physically? I'm not too sure. I'm also really picky when it comes to condition, and collecting complete in box, nice condition Super Nintendo cardboard is a very expensive endeavour. I'm not saying never, but for right now, it's definitely not on the cards. So if I do want to play through games like Terranigma, maybe emulation is the way to go. It's definitely a lot more affordable and a lot more convenient. And sticking with the cost, obviously a big reason why people love emulation is just that, the cost. While you do need to invest in a PC or some sort of device to play these ROMs on, the market has been flooded with budget-friendly handheld PCs, pre-installed with ROMs, for fairly affordable prices. But once you've got the device, you're off to the races. Everything else is free in terms of games. And as long as you know where to go for your ROMs, I'm not going to put any information on this video about where to get your ROMs. I don't know, so I can't help you. But once you've got that all figured out, then you can pretty much get any game through emulation and play it from any console that has ever been released pretty much, and that's pretty cool. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper than buying physical games, but I don't want to get on this train and this bandwagon of believing that retro game collecting has to be expensive. It really doesn't, right? I've done a lot of budget-friendly videos, a lot of £20 CX challenges. I've showcased so many games that you can pick up for dirt cheap prices. Games on the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, the 360. If you want to collect physically for a retro console, you can absolutely do it on a budget. You don't need to go out and be a madman like me, paying £80 for Skies of Arcadia, which, funny enough, is about the same price of modern games now, so take that for what you will. But if you want to collect physical games, you can definitely do it on a budget, collect within your means, and just collect sensibly. Of course, there are some games out there that are very expensive, but if you put some parameters in place, you can definitely make this hobby affordable. But there are some rarer games out there that I would love to play, and if I got attached to playing them physically, I don't think I'd ever play them, so I do definitely get the appeal of emulation. I would love to play Earthbound. It got released on the Super Nintendo, but that game is ridiculously expensive. A complete in-box copy, complete with the scratch and sniff cards, goes for around £2,000. Do I really want to be paying £2,000 for a copy of Earthbound just to play it physically? Hell no. So when it comes around to playing that, I would definitely play it through the Nintendo Switch Online package through emulation. And for the games that are still expensive but a lot more realistic and a lot more attainable for me, games like Roller Rose, Kuon, they are still very expensive, but they're not £2,000 expensive. And I thought about this in the past, but emulation would allow me to trial out these games before forking out a lot of money, probably sweet CX vouchers, but if I emulated Kuon, Roller Rose, I could try them out, make sure they're to my taste, make sure I actually want to play them, and then if and when I wanted to pick them up physically, I know I'm going to be putting my money into something that I actually want to play, something that I actually enjoy. But for me, I'm not too sure if it would take away the magic, the hunger, the desire, the thrill of the hunt, the want to go out there, hunt for the vouchers, hunt for the things to flip towards a Kuon, towards a Roller Rose. So that's the only thing really holding me back from doing emulation for playing games for a demo purpose. And I think for me, this would be something I'd do as a last resort. I'm in no rush right to pick up these games. If it takes me 5-10 years to pick up Kuon, so be it. I have over 400 games in my collection. I'll happily wait years to add some of these expensive games to my collection while I go through my backlog. And the final reason I would look to emulate, touch wood, this never happens, knock on wood, but if anything ever changed in my life that meant I couldn't have a physical room and a physical space for my game collection, hopefully it never happens, but I'll always be a gamer. I love playing games, and I wouldn't let not having a physical room or a physical collection be a barrier and stopping me from playing games. But if something ever happened to this room, this house, to my current life situation, which meant I didn't have the space to be a games collector, then maybe I would look to emulation to get my retro gaming fix. I get it right, this hobby can take up a lot of space. I've got a whole room dedicated to just my hobby, to be a physical games collector. I'm very lucky, I'm very fortunate. I know not a lot of people have got a space, this luxury of having a room, so I do definitely get the appeal of having a emulator device, something on a handheld you can take from room to room, something like a Steam Deck. It is definitely a big reason why people emulate. Hopefully this never happens, but emulation is always there if and when I ever need it. So these are the reasons why I personally don't emulate. Hopefully it answers your comments, your questions, but I need to re-emphasize this. The key word being me. This is why I don't emulate, not why you shouldn't emulate, why I don't emulate. Just my personal preference. I'm not demonizing emulation, it definitely has its places. But again, for me, when it comes to gaming, I want this all-encompassing experience. I'm not looking to just play through games, I want to experience, immerse myself in a game, the backstory, the pain the developers went through, the music. I want that whole experience that only physical games can really give me. I want a way to go back in time to reconnect with old memories, to my younger self, and for me personally, the only way to do that is by collecting and playing games physically in their most authentic and genuine way. And for me, being a physical games collector and not playing games through emulation, it just feels more alive, more real for me, and it just lends itself to the whole encompassing experience I'm looking for. I feel way more connected to my games, and it allows me to be more deliberate, more intentional with what limited time I have for playing through my games. But that is just my opinion. And now I definitely want to hear from you guys. What side of the coin do you fall on when it comes to emulation? Do you enjoy emulation? Why do you enjoy emulation? Why do you go down that path? Or are you like me? Do you not emulate? What reasons don't you emulate? Would you ever emulate games? Sound off in the comments down below. And while you're down there in the comments, if you haven't done so already, smash the like button and subscribe to the Collector Quest channel for more game hunts, CX adventures and everything around video game collecting. And we're also doing a giveaway for a cool copy of Dante's Inferno on the PS3, so check out my previous video on how you can get involved with that giveaway. And as always, good luck on your game hunt and collecting adventures. Take it easy YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next one.